The good news is you can do this. And I'm going to encourage you, whatever you've been through, my prayers are with you, my thoughts are with you.
Hi, I'm Dr. Rola, clinical psychologist, and today I want to talk to you as a parent. What do you do if your child is having behavioral problems at school? You get those phone calls, you get a note, or you see the report card where the behavior is commented on by the teacher. And it can be very frustrating for you as a parent. Many times parents have a sense of shame that their kid is a troublemaker, and it can be a situation where the parent feels like they're being viewed by the school as a bad parent. So there's so many emotions that come into play when a parent is confronted with this issue. My goal today is to encourage you as a parent to approach this multidimensionally and proactively. Before I continue with this topic, I want you to subscribe. Please press that notification bell so that you have immediate access to my videos. Also, I want you to follow me on social media at Ask Dr. Rola, AskDrRola. Important that we approach this multidimensionally. I'm going to be talking in today's video about how you engage a teacher, the school counselor, and other school staff. I'm going to be talking to you about how you're going to communicate with your own child in light of this problem. I'm going to talk to you about how you work through your sense of frustration in terms of being the parent of a child who is acting up and the attention that you're getting from the school system, which is negative, and also encourage you about how to engage with other people in the community, the pediatrician, the basketball coach, and other things going on in the community that can also help you and help your child through this difficult time. I want you to understand that as a parent, the way you approach this has everything to do with how things may play out. Has everything to do with how things will play out. I know it's your child acting up, but there's so much power in you as a parent as to how you approach it, to where even if the problems don't subside right away, because it does take time for issues to be resolved, the school can begin to see you as an ally, and they can begin to show respect to you and give your child the best opportunity to work through this difficult time in their life. So let's start with, why would you want to take the issue of your child having behavioral problems at school seriously? I'm starting with this because you will not believe the number of parents that come into my therapy with me, and this has been going now for over 20 years, and they minimize their child's behavioral problems. They say something like, this is not happening at home. I've never seen him act like this. It may be something that the teacher is doing, or this is because we moved from another country to here. This is normal adjustment. But I don't judge parents. Parents love their kids. It can be very hard to get a negative report from the school. Parents can be very, very defensive. And guess what? I'm one of them. And I've had to work on some of that defensiveness as a parent. My girls are 23 and 29, and they did not have major behavioral problems at school. But even then, there were times I had to put myself forward along the line of what I'm going to share with you today, in a multidimensional and proactive way, to help my child, not just to get passing grades, but to be the very best that they are. Because your kid may be doing well in school, but they may not be maximizing their potential, or some other things may be going on that is not behavior. I put myself in there, and I can tell you it is possible for you to be proactive, assertive, and still work well with the school system. And even if they don't work well with you, it will not be because you created that vulnerability. Why should you take it seriously? When a child is acting up in class, it derails their learning experience. They're missing critical information in the curriculum. Secondly, the child is also derailing the learning experience of other children, which means that the other children might be resentful of them, resentful that their learning experience is being disrupted. The child may end up being known as a class clown or the class troublemaker, which can be somewhat of a self-fulfilling prophecy, and the child literally starts acting the way people have labeled him or her to be. I hope you are beginning to see how serious this is. And that's why in the United States especially, and many other countries probably the same, there's actually a section there in many of the school districts here where they have grades about the child's behavior. Is a child completing work on time? Are they getting along with their friends? Are they staying on task with their behavior, with their work? Are they completing homework assignments? All those things are critical in terms of how they assess the kids' learning. So from early on, my children knew that it wasn't enough to come home with an A. You're not meant to go to school to make that class environment uncomfortable or difficult. Many teachers already have classes that are overcrowded, and even if their classes are overcrowded, those are a whole lot of personalities to deal with, and I do not want my child to be the person that makes the teacher's day difficult. And that is important for you as a parent to also know, that it is important for you to address it now, because if a child gets away with acting up, being disruptive, not learning to be a peacemaker in terms of working in a team and understanding boundaries and structure, this problem can morph into something bigger as they grow older, because in the older years, they're not going to accommodate them. They may suspend them, they may expel them or ignore them, which will cause problems down the road. How are they going to get those good references to be able to go to college if they're acting up in school and they don't know how to act appropriately? There's so many long-term and short-term implications of acting out in school that it is important for you as a parent not to minimize it. The one last thing I'm going to say about this before I move on to the other issues, because there's quite a bit I need to talk about, is that it is not okay to say, but he doesn't do that at home because I know how to handle him, or something like he's very smart. Nobody's here to diminish your kid's intelligence. Thankfully, a lot of us have kids who are smart, but being smart also involves emotional intelligence. And when a kid is acting up in school and you're not intervening appropriately, that kid's emotional development is stunted. There are many people who have the smart, book smart, they have the intelligence in terms of testing, but they do not have the intelligence in terms of social skills. And part of growth and development is being able to have good social skills. So I'm coming off my soapbox about that. This is why you need to intervene and not minimize what the school is saying. Even if you think it's being exaggerated, that is not the place to stop. That is the place to begin from. Now, what do you do when you get those phone calls? If it's a one-time deal, obviously, it's not a big deal. Many times teachers would ignore what your child is doing because it's maybe not as major, and then one day it just gets to be too much. So by the time you get that phone call, they will say something like, oh, he's been acting like this for the last few days. Johnny's tearing up the classroom. He's poking at the other kids. He's not keeping his hands to himself. All kind of complaints can come. And that can be very frustrating for you because you're like, nobody told me this. The most important thing is that you know now. And your job as a parent is not to minimize what that looks like in terms of how you respond. What do you do in terms of talking to the teacher? You talk to the teacher about the possibility of coming over to the school to meet the teacher. And as you want to come to the school to meet the teacher, and you may not be able to do this in one visit, I would suggest very strongly that you ask to observe your kid in the classroom. Ask to observe your kid in the classroom. When I worked as a therapist in a mental health clinic in the community, and even as a foster care social worker, these are for children that have been taken away from their families and put in the foster care children because of abuse. One of the things I used to do that was a very powerful intervention for me was to go into the classroom, and I will ask the teacher, because our social worker, they're almost always obliged, and a therapist. I will say, you as a parent, you have the right to do that. And many teachers may say no because they don't want to be interrupted as much. They don't want you maybe being critical of their teaching style, and they just want a drama-free day. I want you to say to the teacher, I want to get a feel for what your classroom rules are and how you operate, because that is going to help me to really emphasize this with my child. Something about going into the classroom if you pay attention, not in a critical manner, and try to detach and look at it from more an objective manner, you learn the teacher's style, you look at the culture within the classroom, how the kids are relating, and you look at your kid. If it's possible, observe them without the kid knowing that you're there. And if you can't be hidden, at least be in the back at a place where your child does not really see you. Why? You can really observe your child even within an hour. I like that because oftentimes when I go to the school, the teachers show me a lot of respect that I'm even taking the time as a therapist to come out. They then begin to see me as an ally and somebody that is really motivated to address the issue. And believe me or not, believe me, and you better believe me because I've done this for a long time, some of them begin to have a positive attitude towards the child even though the child's behavior has not improved. Why? Because they see that they come from a home or they have connections with people who deeply care about them, and that makes them respect the child even though the child is struggling. So yes, I want you to have an observation of your kid in the classroom. Secondly, I want you to ask to have a meeting with a teacher face to face if you can, because again, that's also engaging. And if you can't do it face to face in this world, new world, you can do it virtually. This is the goal of your meeting with a teacher. And I worked with a parent on this before she went to the school. The school actually required a visit because of the kid was acting out so much. I coached the parent as to how to act at the meeting. The first thing you want to do as a parent for the meeting is be incredibly gracious and thankful for all that your teacher's kid is doing. Your kid's teacher is doing. Why? People want to be thanked for their efforts. Whether you like them or not, you're not the teacher in that classroom. You need them at this moment to be able to help you. You're only going to have to deal with this teacher maybe for the next academic year and you can move on. You're sending the message that my kid is acting up, but I'm also a parent that is courteous, polite, and I'm collaborative in my approach. So you meet the teacher, you say, thank you so much for all you do as a teacher. I truly appreciate you. And in light of the information you've given me about my kids acting out, I'm here to see how we can work together to do whatever possible to help the child's behavior. I want you to have a notepad and a pen so that even though you may want to interrupt, you can make in notes as you go. What are you looking to get out of the meeting? You're looking to get a feeling about the most serious behavioral problems that your child has to the least severe behavioral problems that your child has. So you want a description of the behaviors, and you're not saying describe to me, you're listening. So if they're not giving it to you, you can say, okay, let me have some examples so that when I speak to Johnny about it, I know how to communicate. So you want a description. You also want the frequency of the behavior. How often is this happening? You're also saying, is it happening after lunch? Is it happening during lunchtime? Some kids act out more in unstructured time. I live next to downtown. Let me keep talking. So you're going to hear the police sirens. So how often is this happening? At what time is it happening? Is it during the lunchtime when it's unstructured time or whatever? If your kid is on medication, the teacher may say, oh, after his meds are worn off or he's really, really tired. Whatever the reason is, you are allowing the teacher to put words and description and data to the problem. Because oftentimes what we hear from school is, this kid is a problem. That's a label. What does that mean? You're going in with a more like an investigator kind of in a mode, even though you're a parent. It hurts to hear it, but you're making a note. It helps the school to know that you're the kind of parent that's looking for them to not just label your kid, but to tell you what's wrong because you're here to help them work with them to address the issue. So that's the meeting with the teacher. And you're also going to be telling the teacher that you're going to be communicating the things you guys talked about in the meeting to your child. The teacher knows that this is not just a meeting for the sake of a meeting to attack them. It's a meeting to be able to go and talk to your kid or to your child so that there's this ongoing connection between what the teacher is seeing, what they've told you and what the kid is hearing from you as well. Many times the teacher is concerned about the kid's behavior, but they've never articulated it to that child. They're just tracking. You get to do that as a parent. So you meet with a teacher. I talked about why you need to address behavioral problems, and also the other one is the meeting with the teacher. You're gathering data. When you go to the classroom, remember that you're looking at the classroom layout and you're also observing the culture. So let's move forward. End the meeting by telling the teacher that you see them as an ally, that you want to work with them. If they have any suggestions as to how they think you could help your child to improve, they should let you know. Many teachers will give suggestions. Make a note of those. People like you to ask them for support, and they start to see your kid differently, which is very important. Your kid may be the best angel to you at home, but if they're tearing up the classroom, they're gaining a negative reputation. So you're trying to improve your child's behavioral problem. You're also trying to improve your child's reputation and your family's reputation. You're advertising your family. You're putting your family and yourself in a positive light. If there are things going on at home, maybe like the death of a family member or father, or the mother has a chronic illness, this is an opportunity to talk about it to the teacher as well, so that they can have some level of empathy towards your child. Say that your child has lost a sibling, God forbid, or something really bad has happened. That is a good time to talk about it and how you've noticed some of those behaviors at home or not. Tell them what you see at home, and that way there's this reciprocity in communication with the teacher, and that's important. Ask the teacher for something in particular. And this is what I've asked teachers to do for me. I know they're incredibly busy. I know that they have a lot to do. And some teachers may be very reluctant to do this because it's one more thing. But the way you present it matters a lot. I want you to ask the teacher to provide you with a daily behavioral log. Daily. And you can come up with what you want to see in the report, or the teacher can come up with it, because the teacher is the one complaining. And they may say, I'll just tell you by email. No, I want you to ask for a behavioral log, because I want you to be able to identify the times that your child is doing the right thing and also when your child is doing wrong things. It is not good for us to always focus on what is not working and only for our kids to get attention when things are not working. We also want to give attention when things are working. So you want to tell the teacher, I don't want this thing to get out of hand in the future, and then I'm always feeling overwhelmed. If you track it on a daily basis, I'm always feeling overwhelmed by my child's behavior and how this behavior is getting worse. So if you give me a daily log, I can use that as a means to communicate with my child every day. I can give consequences. I can have a prep talk. I can give rewards. I want us to be in a continuous, easy flow of communication, so that we're not waiting until he does something inappropriate that is major before I get on him or I talk to him about it. Do you see the reason? Most teachers will say yes. In fact, they should say yes, because you're telling them again that you're going to use it for that purpose. I have used this tool in therapy. It's incredible. I did it with a client, and I reviewed it weekly, once a week in therapy. His behavior improved dramatically because I gained respect with him as his therapist. We do play therapy together. We talk about setting rules in the therapy room. We talked about the importance of him acting well. All that critical information that we shared in therapy, he looked forward to talking to me in therapy about how well he was doing. And that is why it is critical that you get the daily report log. Good or bad, you want it all. Let's call it what it is. And that comes in. It can come in by email. If the kid is the kind that will hide it, let it come by email. That gives you a foundational thing to work with your child, and your child knows that We're in this together, sweetheart. You're in this together, son. We're in this together, daughter. We're going to address this problem. We're not going to overlook it, and we're going to do it daily rather than ignoring the problem and then wondering why things are getting worse. So that daily report card you need. Now let's talk about what you are going to talk to your child about. So you've probably talked to your child some other ways. I can't believe you're doing this. I got a phone call from the school. That's okay. You're a parent. You're frustrated. Now we're going to be talking to the kid in a way that is constructive, because now we have data. We have the most serious behavior, the least serious behavior, the frequency of the problems. We have the meeting with the teacher. We have the unobtrusive observation in the classroom. We've gathered data. We can see what some of these issues are. We have a better understanding. This issue is not far away. It's now close to me. I can talk about this as a parent. You can talk about it as a parent with passion. I now sit my kid down and I share with them some of the things I have found and I've discovered, or I knew before, or I didn't know before. And then I allow the child to give me feedback as to what is going on. And this conversation may go on over multiple times depending on the age of the kid, so it's not too overwhelming. But this is, you have a working document, and your kid doesn't know this, that you're using in terms of how you're asking how the kid is doing. Because there could be so many other things going on. Somebody may be calling her fat, calling him fat or skinny. Your hair looks funny. The child may be bullied. The teacher may be disregarding or minimizing them when they raise their hands and they want to answer in the classroom. There could be a whole range of things going on. This gives you the opportunity to allow your child to express to you what is going on with them. It starts off a conversation before consequences and all that. And there's nothing wrong with giving consequences, but at least the primary thing you're doing before even talking about consequences is getting feedback as to what is going on. This helps you to further explore other things that you may not have been aware of. And it also helps you to continue with this investigative mode where you're better understanding what is triggering this. Maybe it's your kid's temperament. Maybe it's what is being done to the kid. Regardless of what the issue is, you still need to be doing something. And that is why this is a critical conversation. So this is important. Then you are going to work with your child to come up with what they think the consequences should be for the behavior that they have at school that is inappropriate. What you're telling your kid is, when you act up in school, it doesn't stop there. You're going to come home and I'm going to be working with you. And some of the rewards and some of the benefits, like riding your bike, going to your friend's house, playing video games, all those things may need to go. Or you may have to come home and do a few more chores for me. Or do something extra to show me that, to remind you that the behavior at school is not acceptable. I like sitting with my kid and coming up, as a parent, coming up with consequences. And I would even do that with therapy with kids, with children, and I will involve their parents as well. Before we start meting out punishment and consequences, we're going to talk about this. This shows a child that they have a lot more power than they're willing to give themselves credit for. That means how life is at home and how many blessings and benefits you get is dependent on your behavior. Again, you're still showing empathy for all these other areas. If it's bullying, you're going to the school, all that, to address those. But you're also coming up with a list of consequences. And the rewards is everything is fun. Every other activity they have that is fun, they keep on doing that. I will not suggest that you pay your kid for acting well at school. The rewards for doing the right thing is you get to play your video game, I don't know, maybe on Saturday for an hour. Whatever those things are that you thought were normal and you should just hand to them because you're their parent, they don't have to have all those things. Those things become things that you can take away, and then also you can give a bonus or a reward unexpectedly when you see a period of time in which they're acting right. I will say to you that I do not recommend you telling your child, oh, if you act right in the next 2 weeks, I'll buy you a bike. The problem with that is that your child then is thinking about the bike. I want it to be a more natural consequences that you're utilizing in order to be able to get this behavior to get better. And then the last thing, because of how long this video is now, is I want you to also, if you talk to a pediatrician, doesn't mean that your child needs medication, but it also sends your child the message that you do take behavioral issues very seriously. So when you go for your well check with your pediatrician, talk to your pediatrician about it. If the school is talking about attention issues, if you're not for medication, that's fine. Still talk about the attention issues and begin to look at ways to address attention issues without medication if that's not what you want. It may involve you structuring their time better, their study area, highlighting the things that need to be done for the day, improving their organizational skills. But I am one person, as a therapist, as a psychologist, and as a parent, I don't believe that you can ever get too much information when it comes to your kid, what your child. What I find with a lot of parents is they shut it down. I don't want to talk to anybody. I'm just going to take care of it here. No. The more your child knows that you're reaching out to different people, you're sending a message to your child that this issue is serious enough, and I'm going to involve as many people as possible to give us as much information as possible. And that gives your child sends them the message that you're not playing games about this and you're looking for this issue to get better over time. So the psychologist, psychiatrist, counselor, you can even use a school counselor, and then if possible, get them into a team, anything that involves teamwork in the community to help with social skills where behavior is being taught. I'm come to the end of this video. I want you to remember that parenting is both an art and a science. No matter what guidelines and understanding you have, every child is different and they have challenges, but inside those children is incredible treasure and potential. And when we as parents refuse to give up and continue to advocate for them in a way not to be defensive, but to be proactive, advocate for them, connect with the school, connect with professionals, talk with our kid about how things are going, keep this communication going. Your child then begins to see you as somebody that is motivated to help them, not just in the area of their grades, but in every aspect of their development. I want you to share this video with as many people as possible. I want you to subscribe and press that notification bell, and I will talk to you very soon by God's grace. Thank you so much for listening. Bye now.